Hello there, it's Josh here. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. In this video I am going to run through the 310 at Plumpton on Sunday, where our Sir Canford returns to the course 27 days after his last start, struts his stuff and will hopefully bounce back to form. What should I say on him quickly? Sam gave the excuse of the ground last time at Cartmel, which he didn't seem to enjoy at all. It had rained heavily the day before. We thought kind of softer ground based on some of his old form and from when he was a bit younger would be just fine, but this would certainly be worth a go exploring again. But the ground had started to dry out and become that kind of tacky, sticky ground, which some horses like and some horses don't. Indeed, one horse, I think, who wasn't far away from him at Cartmel was also stuffed, bounced back to win on better ground on their next start, and we're hoping that Sir Canford may do the same. So for now, the excuse for Cartmel was dry, tacky, sticky ground. Sam said he was never really travelling, and he was never jumping that well out of it either. He was very sticky at times. Maybe the course didn't suit as well, although I'm not sure that's a valid excuse at this stage. And he was beat a long way before any stamina concerns. Longer term, Sam has always thought he settles so well and relaxes in his races, especially how he finished and stayed on at Uttoxeter 2 starts ago, that 3 miles is certainly worth exploring at some stage, and at some point we will do so. But yeah, so he returns back to what will, I think, be good ground. It's currently good to soft, good in places officially at Plumpton on the hurdle course. That was as of 7:45 this morning. They've only had 1 mil of rain in the last 24 hours. They had a really dry spell kind of a few weeks back. And it's forecast to be dry today, Saturday as I record this, and sunny spells and dry and breezy on Sunday as well. So hopefully this dries out good ground, little bit of sponge in it, which will be just ideal for him, and certainly no excuses on that front. If he runs a duffer again around here, then that would suggest there's another excuse. We think the track will be fine and worth a go. The only concern, if I actually just get the track up, well, not the only concern, more of an unknown, I suppose. He's never raced here before. The track's actually, although it's kind of tight enough, it's just fine. It's got 2 bends, it's got 2 long straights, which he will appreciate. He went round Fakenham just fine on his first start for us. He found the trip a bit short, but he handled those bends and that type of track just fine, and that's a bit tighter and more on the turn in some places than Plumpton is. So yeah, we think the track's going to be fine. The only question or unknown is the kind of downhill bit on the far side. Down here, especially as they, down this bit, finishing post here, as they hurtle down for the final time and kind of jump and then leave the back. Hopefully he jumps that last hurdle fine before they start the turn for home and can hold a position around here, as I think he will enjoy staying on up this straight and this kind of climb to the line as well. So we will learn a bit. It's his first go at the course, and we will have a kind of educational experience all round in terms of this sort of track and going downhill on that far side, and indeed the nature of the course. As if I just flag that, what also gives me some confidence finally in terms of the track. He's run well at Sedgefield for his previous connections. Found that trip a bit too short, but Sedgefield is very up and down, including quite a steep downhill until the final flight before a climb to the line. So at this stage, until he proves otherwise tomorrow, don't think there's going to be an excuse on that front either. Before I get on to some of the opposition, the final thing I should say, this is only his 5th on Sir Canford. This is his 5th handicap hurdle start. We think there's still a fair bit more to come. Actually, Dr. Newland and his team think he was only just starting to get the hang of things at Uttoxeter. He was still a bit kind of green and inexperienced at times. This is a slightly deeper race. That was a 0 to 100 novice handicap. This is a 0 to 105 standard handicap with plenty of previous winners in, or a few previous winners and horses who know how to win, which wasn't necessarily the case in his Uttoxeter race. Over hurdles anyway. So yeah, he will need to step up a bit, but I'll touch on some of the opposition in a moment. I think I think the race is winnable, and I think it's open. There's kind of three or four, if they kind of bounce back, and or three or four who won wouldn't be a total surprise, and a few with kind of lightly raced, interesting profiles. So it is a competitive little race. The pace maps on GG suggest on good ground, kind of 12 to 13 runners if I change it there. You can kind of win from the front and the back. These are small sample sizes. It can pay to be prominent, but if there's a strong pace on, you can do okay from being held up further back. I suspect, well, Sam normally tries to drop set Sir Canford off a bit prominently. I think Rebel Intentions, who was handy last time, will probably go forward. Jamie Moore made the running on Ikare Grand Champ last time, mainly I think because no one else necessarily wanted to go along, but he will be up there. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was happy to slot in second and third either. So Lavelles may go forward, especially as he stays further, and may want further than this. And outside of kind of those two, I'm not quite sure anything else is going to bomb on necessarily. Ranko will jump off prominently, but around here I think might get shuffled back, but we will see. Maybe something else will change tactics. Proper 12 raced a bit more promptly when he won at Market Raisin last time, so he might be up in the first 4 or 5, but hopefully Sam gets a kind of slot on the rail and can kind of jump off in somewhere in the top 4, possibly kind of around this kind of spot, and will be in a no excuses position. Hopefully he jumps to his best and can hold a position around this course and down that hill on the far side, especially final time. So yeah, I'm fairly bullish of a big run here. Some bookmakers, I've got no idea what odds he's going to be as yet. Some bookmakers are paying 4 places on this at the moment, and every place may help. But if he bounces back to his Uttoxeter form, I'm going to be disappointed. If obviously he evidently handles the track as well, and there's no other excuse, doesn't make a jumping howler, etc. I'll be disappointed if he's not thereabouts in the places here, and I think we will be fairly excited as they jump the second last, and we will see what happens from there on in, and if anything has a bit more boot or a bit more pace over this trip maybe, or has more in hand. Of the dangers, well, the Gary Moore horse is unexposed, looks to have taken a fair bit of time to get to grips, well, or to acclimatise from when he came from France. Only raced three times, sorry, for Gary, didn't do that well, but a break seems to have done him the world of good. That was a 4-runner race. It was slightly deeper than this in theory, but he ran okay there. He looked fairly green to me, and as if he's still a big baby. And I think he's probably going to get better with racing and better with time. He sets a fairly okay standard on that form. I think he was possibly flattered to get as close as he did, and I wondered just on watching him on that evidence whether if this does dry out to good ground, whether even this course and distance might be a bit too sharp for him. And indeed, he's got questions of how he handles going that downhill as well. He looks quite big and raw still, but evidently does have an engine and some ability. He was staying on well at Fontwell, so if he can keep in touch and is thereabouts to 2 out, on that evidence of his last start, he will keep going onto the line. Obviously, he's carrying a fair lot more weight here. He's down a couple of classes into a weaker race, in theory, but possibly is slightly more competitive. And yeah, we'll see what he does. He was a bit keen there that day as well. He'll probably strip a bit fitter for it, and yeah, I would expect him to run well. Just whether inexperience and lack of possible battle hardiness, I suppose, catches him out on the run for home. But he's one to keep an eye on, because I suspect he's got some okay ability. He's clearly no world beater, but he could be the sort that gets better in time, and I'm not going to be surprised if he's thereabouts. For all it's at this stage, it's hard to know what his form is worth, although the winner there was a last time out winner, and arrived in form and unexposed. Proper 12, question really is whether this horse is fit. He was last seen winning well at Market Raisin, 2 miles 5 in softer ground. At the time, that was it was a fairly weak race, though a few have come out and won since. He ran over slightly further around here the race before, arrived race fit, and and although still kind of inexperienced and learning, ran there under Angus No Claim. That was a conditional jockey's race. He was off 93 there, so he's £12 higher. He's went up £9 for that fairly easy win at Market Raisin. Just whether the handicapper has him here, but he is entitled to have come on for another summer at grass. He's only 5. He did look pretty raw at times there. Again, he's got a question over whether this trip may be sharp enough. It definitely looks like he might want further, and his win was over further. That makes me think that they might try and be aggressive and hold a handy position with him. Chris Gordon can get them fit, no problem at all. Just whether or not he wants to. He does well with last time out winners. Tends to hold their form, although this one's had a 135-day break. Worth noting the odd stat, Chris Gordon, Rex Dingle in the last year, 7 from 15, 9 places, plus 46 SP. So they're a kind of little trainer jockey micro angle to track, if you so wish. Rex is obviously, Anthony Honeyball has first dibs on him, and Jeremy Scott sometimes as well. But yeah, obviously when he rides for Chris Gordon, worth noting. Cherry Cola's interesting. She has got some okay form at the course, actually. Yeah, so she's raced 4 times. Other than unseating rider, has been in the places 3, including in April, where arguably that was, given it was a Class 3, it was okay form. That could possibly be seen as one of the best pieces of recent form, and certainly the best piece of form at the course. So if Cherry Cola, excuse me, can get back to that form here from April, she could be running on. However, she is 0 from 9 over hurdles. They usually hold her up, and that performance was off 10 stone and with a claimer on. She's now got a massive load of weight, although she's carried it okay in this race here in September 22 under Mark Goldstein from the same mark. So if she bounces back to her Plumpton best and handles the way, I think she could be thereabouts. The question is if she gets too far back and under pressure. Every time she's raced at Plumpton, I watched the last 2 races here, she does hang left and gives the jockey plenty to do and doesn't kind of help the jockey out. So again, if this one will be storming up the hill, I think, arrives in okay form from the flat, is clearly fit, clearly likes it here. I think 102 may be workable. Not got masses of hand, but I can see Cherry Cola kind of running at whoever's in front of her, kind of approaching the last. Maybe that'll be us. Hopefully Sam's got enough up his sleeve and can batter away. But yeah, so those other 3 are interesting for said reasons, but I think beatable. They've all got their own questions, as does Rebel Intention, who's up £3. Not really sure what that form was worth. Looking at his profile, his best efforts have been after a break to date. He's got a question of whether he can follow this performance up, but maybe that wind operation in May has made a difference, as has the break. So we could see more here. That was an okay run, beating another of Dr. Newland's in seconds, who's a fair horse. Again, that was over 22 furlongs. Looks like a galloper. Will something have a bit more toe and boot for him, again turning for home? But I expect them to ride him aggressively to try and alleviate that possibility. Arrives in form, 6-year-old. This is only the 9th hurdle run of his life, as we can see here. And only the 6th handicap hurdle. So he arrives fit, in form, and you'd expect him to run a solid race, I think. But again, no world beater, and I think is beatable. But again, another one who might run well. Ranko bolted up 2 starts ago in a so-so race. I think, well, I've made the judgment, and he can prove me wrong, that this course and distance around here might well be too sharp and too tight for him. He got fairly fair. He got behind at Worcester when staying on, possibly benefited from a strong pace, was doing all his work after the last. That's a far more galloping track than Plumpton. And the question for him is if he can hold a position around here. He may well do it just fine. He bombed out of Uttoxeter, having been ridden a bit more aggressively, which I'm not sure he liked. He then got far back and outpaced. Harry Cobden jumps on this time. We will see. He has never won as yet from a mark above 90, so he has that as well. I think I'm hoping the course might cause him a few problems. Gary Moore's, this one has a few questions, especially stamina, but is likely enough raced over hurdles. Um, doesn't win too often, but does have a hurdle win to his name over shorter. And the question is, will this step up in trip make a difference? He's obviously getting older. Maybe it will, but at this point, he does have a stamina question. He is a course winner. You'd think Jamie would be on if they fancied him more, and Jamie's possibly picked a Carre Grand Champ. So we will see how that goes. But yeah, stamina question and rated 91. I'd like to think all those previously mentioned may be stronger. 10 past midnight. Struggling to win off this mark. Sean Bowen keeps the ride. Has won from this mark though, so not impossible. Has won over the distance at Southwell, although that was very slowly run, turned into a bit of a sprint and a bit of a dash. I'd like to think this is going to be a half decent gallop, and I do think a more strongly run 20 furlongs is a question, which might be why they've stuck to 16 the last twice. But in form, running well, or was when last seen 58 days ago. I'm not quite sure why I had that break. That might suggest a minor niggle or a problem. I'd expect to run okay, just whether something has a bit more class and ability, possibly a bit more in hand, and outstays him even. That's my judgment there, but I could be wrong on all those fronts. Polly Pocket is fit and in form. Looks like the handicapper, having put up £5 since that win off 78, now has her, and yeah, some of that form is a bit questionable. Does know how to win, is consistent, runs a race, but again, even from this way, I'd like to think one of those previously mentioned might just have a bit too much for her, but hasn't really been doing much wrong. Harry Bannister, a jockey to note around Plumpton, rides it very well, 10 from 34, 15 places. Another of those micro stats to note for the future. And these other four have far too many questions, and I'd like to think, based certainly on recent form, maybe something's going to bounce back to life from a very lowly mark here. But I think all these four need every other horse previously mentioned to date to massively underperform on the evidence we can see. And yeah, they've all got numerous questions. So yeah, competitive little race. Is there any other kind of stats you can note moving forward? That's a sire stat. Ranko, Nigel Hawke at the course in the last 5 years. They're solid enough stats, so can watch. Keep an eye on Nigel Hawke at Plumpton. More generally, that one's got some hot form. I've touched on the Harry Bannister stats. What have we got for Fergal? Fergal O'Brien and Liam Harrison are in form. That's worth noting more generally. Fergal's horses here in the last 5 years, 6 from 19, 10 places. Trainer jockey are in form, as you can see there, so that could be worth noting. Like I said, the horse has a few questions, but this is only the second handicap hurdle of its life. Has a trainer change. Has had a break, left Sheila Lewis. Maybe Fergal is going to inspire masses of improvement. Certainly needs to. Looks like this one has plenty to learn. Possible lurker, given a move to Fergal's only fifth run of his life, second handicap hurdle. But on paper, much to do. That's the sort where the market may or may not guide. So it will be interesting to see what happens with this one. Certainly a profile where better run. You're not going to fall over in shock in a Class 5 handicap hurdle at this level, but with any luck, this one is here for a day out. Fergal's learning about him and her, I should say, and there may be other days, but is related to some winners, as you can see there, and yeah, be interesting to see what the market does, but at this stage, plenty to do from what we can see, but yeah, like I said, likely race. So that's that. 20 minutes is plenty for a film like this, a video preview like this. I'll finish with the instant expert tab. This is on good ground handicap hurdle. You can see there, Sir Canford, plenty of green, first run at the track. Systemic, course win, distance a question. Polly Pocket ticks a few boxes. Cherry Cove, if I put that's the win, so you can pause that and do what you want with that. That's the place. You can see there, proper 12 ticks a lot of boxes. If fit, you would like to think it's going to be thereabouts. Gary Moore's Unexposed has a few questions. Cherry Cola does like this course, and Handicap Hurdles arrives fit and informed, so I think she'll be thereabouts. So Canford will, for all those reasons, explain. If handling the track and bouncing back to form on this ground, Rebel Intention in form. Slight question dropping back to this trip. Ranko, I think, has a question at the course, but if can hold a position and bounce back to that Worcester form, might be thereabouts. Systemic stamina. 10 past midnight, the same for me in a properly run race. Polly Pocket consistent, but handicap mark. Does she have the class, or will have the firepower to keep away some of those above her on the race card? So yeah, do with that as you please. I'm hoping Sir Canford bounces back to his best in these conditions. If he does, he's obviously got a question after Cartmel last time. If he does bounce back to his best, Sam knows him well, rides his course well. I think he's going to be bang there in this lineup, and I'll be disappointed, with those reasons stated, if he's not thereabouts in the places and has us excited up to after the last. That's, of course, if he runs his race and leaves Cartmel behind and gets back to Utoxeter levels of form. In what I think is a competitive race, but an open one. There's clearly 3 or 4 horses winning this, which I'm not going to fall over in shock, but hopefully Sir Canford can be bang there. I've got no idea what the market's going to be as yet. I'm hoping it's going to be an each way price. There might be an overreaction after his Cartmel run, and we shall see how he does. So yeah, with that said, I will be at Plumpton race side watching, cheering him on, and with a few of his owners. If you're there, do say hello, and yeah, hopefully he puts his best hooves forwards, has us excited approaching the last, and we'll see what he does from there on in, or after 2 out, I should say. And if this video preview has been useless, do note some of those stats that I touched on, because they will be useful moving forwards. With that said, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Do cheer Sir Canford on from wherever you're watching. Yeah, I will see you soon. This is Josh saying thanks for watching. Take care and bye for now.